am incredibly excited to talk about Sephora and be back with another Breaking Bots. More than that, I'm excited to hang out with two good friends in the industry, Peter and Ayesha. Peter, now at Voiceflow, and getting to work with them every day. Ayesha, I think this is maybe our second or third time doing a workshop together. So very excited to jam. Let your expertise be shared to the whole group today. We got a great turnout, so very excited to talk Breaking Bots Sephora. If this is your first time at a Breaking Bots, what we do is we take industry experts from a different industry who are working on a different bot and look at a specific industry, today Sephora, and understand what can be better, what we really like, and what do we want to steal for our own bots, right? It's not just a tear down session. And then from there, we'll actually go and rebuild today 2 core flows in Voiceflow and better understand how does someone go through and actually build and think about the redesign process from the business, from the design, from the developer angle. But that said, who are you going to be learning from today? Ayesha, I'll turn it over to you to give a quick introduction.
Yeah, for sure. Hey everyone, really excited to be here today. My name is Ayesha Saleem. I'm a conversation design manager currently at Instacart. I've been in the conversation design world since, gosh, it's been forever. I think I started when Alexa was first released. I was building like Alexa skills back when like nobody was doing that and the UI was just god awful. But yeah, super excited to be here. Peter, do you want to go next?
Hey, I'm Pete. I'm the Senior Conversation Design Advocate at Voiceflow. I've been doing this, for a fairly long time, probably about 5 years on and off. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. It should be fun.
Amazing. Happy to have you, Pete. Thanks for tuning in at, 5:30 a.m. your time?
Yes, it is 5:34 right now.
Amazing. Well, we'll get the best version of Pete at 5:30, and we're lucky to
I can confirm it's the future here and aliens haven't taken over the world yet, so we're all good.
We at least have 12 more hours, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then lastly, my name's Sam. I'm on the Voiceflow team as well, and I host the Breaking Bots workshop. Very excited to learn and learn a lot from you two today. That said, Ayesha, I'll turn it over to you to talk a little bit about Sephora and kind of set the stage.
Yeah, for sure. So for the longest time in my career, I've wanted to do something with Sephora. So I'm super excited about this. Sephora, if you don't know, is a beauty store. They sell makeup, they sell hair products, they sell just about everything in the beauty world. It's been around for a long time. It's been there since the 1970s. They have brands that are unique to Sephora, such as like Rare Beauty. They also have their own Sephora brand inside the store. And then they're constantly adding different brands, doing exciting new things, launching new concepts. They're across 34 countries. They're worldwide. There's just so many stores. You can see the slide, 2,600 plus stores. That's insane. But yeah, it's a brand that most people should be super familiar with. So this is what the Sephora storefront page looks like. And we just highlighted the live beauty help, which is what they call their virtual assistant. And then ultimately, this is the same window where you can actually speak to a live agent as well. And this is the bot that we will be breaking today. It's available on the Sephora store. It's also available in app. So I actually used the in-app version, but it looks the same.
Yeah, and then I think this is we call out the Australia version as well. As Pete, you did a little bit of a different customer experience, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the Sephora app from the US store, and I wasn't able to really access the US one. So I did Sephora Australia, and it's fairly similar in where it's located on the website and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Awesome. And then, a little bit more context here, Ayesha, on the assistant.
Yeah, so the live chat feature has been there for a bit. It's been installed since March 2021. I don't know if y'all remember before the pandemic, if you are Sephora users or have walked into Sephora before. I remember the first time I walked into a Sephora. I was 19 years old. I was in college. It always felt like a little bit more of a bougie adult brand. But I felt like I was ready at 19. And they just had amazing customer service. I remember they had like a wall full of face products that I didn't know, any of their names, and just like shades upon shades upon shades. They had like 200 different shades, and their customer service, their people did a great job of just like shade matching me, walking me through, everything I would need, everything that I would want. I really fell in love with the experience. And so during the pandemic, Sephora had to change the way that they had that stellar customer service. Obviously, as like the world went virtual, they also decided to go virtual, and have a very similar, or I guess just as good of a customer experience, but virtually. And that's kind of why the live chat feature was installed. I believe there's a couple different like reasons and a couple different things that they hope to achieve. So just like you would have an in-store beauty advisor, they now have you can interact with a human beauty advisor, but virtually, so you don't even have to leave your house. They've seen huge impact with their assistant. There's a 25% order increase, which is insane if you think about it. Still have that stellar customer satisfaction at 90%, which is amazing. And then they contribute 1.7% of their company profits to their digital channel, which also includes chat.
I find that even so impressive because it shows like having a virtual advisor, a virtual assistant already has business impact. But I think the work you guys did in this breaking and then rebuilding shows that like, great, you can't just have it there though. It's an initial bump, but then you need to make sure it's consistently refined and optimized to make sure it's a good customer experience. But yeah, let alone standing one up is powerful for a business. That said, so let's hop over to North America. Ayesha, I think this is where you jumped in and found some changes.
Yeah, so just like Peter couldn't get to the North America bot, I couldn't get to the Australia bot. So I'm here looking at the North America one, which I'm sure was intentional on Sephora's end. And so this is one of the experiences I had inside the app. They initially asked me for my order number, and I decided to say that I didn't have an order number, so I said not available. They asked me, how can we help you today? I just said, hey, I need help placing an order. That's a very high intent thing to say. So, if a customer in the retail space tells you that they need help making an order, likely they're about to place an order, they're about to give you your money. So you want to make that experience as, seamless, as easy, least amount of friction as possible. But surprisingly here, when I told them that I needed help placing an order, they decided to escalate me to an agent. And then unfortunately you see there, it says, we apologize. All of our agents are currently unavailable. Please try again. So I thought try again could mean, I could scroll up in the chat, maybe try a different decision tree, try different options, but all of those were gone. So then try again actually meant that I had to start an entirely new chat. And I just didn't have the confidence that that chat would go any better than my first chat. So obviously at this point, this is a dead end. I don't think I have to say this, but this is a bad user experience. As a user, I didn't, my end goal was not met. I didn't get the help I needed. And I also don't have any confidence that I'm going to get the help that I needed. There was never someone will contact you or will get back to you or anything like that. It was just like hey, try again, which was just did not leave me feeling great.
No, not at all. Awesome. And then we can hop to the next thing you found here.
Awesome. Thank you. So this was a different, I did try again, spoiler alert. And this time I decided to give them an order number. So the flow is the same. They asked what they can help me with. I say customer service. And then they say, what customer service question can we help you with? They have a little drop down with a bunch of different stuff. I said something else. And then they asked me for my order number. This time I did provide an order number. Thankfully, I shop at Sephora probably every week, so I have a ton of those lying around. It took me a second to dig one up, but I did give them one. And then they responded with the how can we help you today that you see in the little red box. This was really interesting to me because as a user, I had no idea if they actually got my order number. They never really acknowledged that they received it. So I'm like, okay, did y'all look it up? Is it a real order? Did I accidentally have a typo in there? What happened? And then I said, okay, I want to return an item. And then again, they were just like, please allow us one moment. They're going to connect me with an agent. The bot didn't really do anything. It just collected information and then decided to do a handoff. And if we go to the next slide.
Mhm.
Awesome, thank you. So this is where I decided, let's try to give this a little bit of a makeover. Let's fix this up a little bit. And so one of the best practices that I think is super important is to really acknowledge what your user is saying. And that goes for like all conversations, like, human to human conversation, and also, like human computer conversations and bot conversations as well. So in this specific case, I put in, this is using Voiceflow. I recreated do you have an order number handy? Enter it below or type not available. Just made that a little bit more conversational. Responded with an order number. And then the response that I put in there, and I know it's going a little bit quick, it's just thanks for your order number. That just acknowledges that we've received it. And that gives the user a lot more confidence that their input was actually, like taken, and we did something with it, which I think is the right call. And then if we go to the next, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Sam.
Yeah, I was just going to say actually two quick things. For anyone in the audience, if you are in North America, we definitely encourage you to open up the Sephora app and try this yourself and play with it. And if you have other recommendations of how you would approach this turn, drop them in the chat, and we might be able to sprinkle it into the rebuild as well. But Ayesha, one thing I wanted to say, just listening to you analyze this, it's amazing how many times as designers or teams, we kind of take for granted someone's understanding or knowledge of business logic, right? And I think we're so used to, or individual teams, Sephora teams, so used to, well, this is the flow, where that we don't think we have to confirm it with them, right? But like an assistant should be able to meet someone first time, no context of Sephora, just the same way as someone who's done it 100 times, right?
Yeah, no, definitely agree. And it's interesting because sometimes when I think about these conversations, I think about like how they would play out in real life. And if someone walked up to me and said like, or even on the phone, if someone's like, hey, what's your order number? And I, give them this long number with, several digits, and they just didn't say anything afterwards. They just pivoted the conversation. I would be a little confused as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Laura called out interesting chat too, just thinking about, adding a menu up front. And maybe this is within the flow, but really being clear about that menu and what's possible up front. Maybe wants to return or exchange. Just again, giving the user buttons or open intents the chance to find what they're looking for. Yeah, thanks, Laura, for calling that out. Anytime you guys have design decisions you want us to think about, drop them in the chat. That's great. But yeah, back to you, Ayesha. Continuing on this note, the next slide.
Yeah, I love your comment, Laura, and it actually ties in really, really great to the slide as well. So I kind of did a good, better, best, knowing that obviously I don't have all the context that the Sephora designers did. So this is best in my opinion, and everyone's best is going to depend on, their business and their intent and their users. So in no way is this the absolute best. So the good version of how I designed this was, again, thanks for your order number, just acknowledging that, that we did receive that. For better, actually resurfacing information about them, because what's really powerful with that order number is now you have a little bit more data about your user. So for example, if you see that, hey, the order number 12345 corresponds with an order that was placed just last week, July 12th, and we're able to see that order is delayed, that's probably, you can take a best guess why your user is contacting you, and you can actually surface that information earlier on instead of kind of like making the user have to, ask and ask and ask and work towards it. So in the better response, I put, I see you placed an order on July 12th. Your order is currently delayed by 2 days. What can I help you with? And, maybe that, was exactly what the user was asked, like, waiting for is, hey, when's my order getting here? Maybe they're good. But yeah, just having that information there. And then for best, I actually just put bullets of some things that I think would be an even better experience. So like we talked about, acknowledge what your user says. If your user says something, just acknowledge that you've either received it. It doesn't have to be as like elaborate as I received your order number, or thanks for your order number. It could even be like an informal got it. But just making sure they feel like it's a conversation, and you're understanding what they're saying. I love when brands use like a first name basis with me. I just love when they actually use my name. I actually only take multivitamins because I found a multivitamin company that'll put "Hi Ayesha" on every pack that I have to take. So that definitely works for me. Different people might have different opinions on that, but I just think it's a really cute moment. So if you do have an order number, you could even do something like, "Hi Ayesha." In this case, I didn't because the order number might have been a gift or might be something else. But you can say like, am I speaking to Peter? I see that this was placed by Peter, or if you want to confirm an email address or a piece of information that way. This really ties into what Laura said a second ago. You can actually predict your user needs. Once you have the order number, you can use historic data to see, okay, people who contact us, about orders that are late usually have questions about returns or cancelings, or when their order's going to get there, or how can they reschedule delivery, and using that data, or even using, like your customer service representative data, like, hey, when you get calls, like, what are people asking about? You can put something like a menu. You can kind of predict what your user needs are going to be, and instead of, again, kind of forcing your users to tell you what the problem is, kind of predicting what the problem is and proactively solving it. And then the last thing that I think is super, super important is only surfacing relevant info. And I think that goes hand in hand with predicting user needs, because oftentimes I'll see bots or people predicting user needs, but doing way too many, and then just overwhelming me. And sometimes sometimes less is more as well, especially in the case of UX. And you don't want to like freak your users out. You don't want to be like, oh, I see your order's late. Here are the things we can help you with. And then it's like cancel order, reschedule order, and then like, what happens if my order never arrives? Because then your user is like, wait, that's like an option. Like my order might not arrive. And so you really want to make sure that you're only surfacing the relevant info. It makes sense from like a business perspective. It makes sense from a user perspective. And it's not like, especially with bots like the Sephora bot, you're only dealing with a small amount of surface area on a larger screen. So you want to make sure it plays nicely with the rest of your site, but also isn't just like super, super content heavy.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Ayesha. I think the comments we just got to are very interesting because I think they followed the bullet points that you just went. Everyone was reading your mind a little bit, and Stephen called out here that I put on the screen. It's such a good point. Again, something that a designer might pass up because we are great. We have all this data. When do we deploy it? All at once, right? Well, no, like the order number doesn't make any sense if it's a new Sephora customer, which I think a teaser, as Peter will show in Voiceflow today, you can have all that data. We have access to all of that, and using a simple API call, you can surface that off the top and know what the intent is at the time. I really like that message from Stephen. Also, Rachel called out here the same idea about estimated arrive Friday. That simple word of like, got that, or I got it. I got your order number. Thank you for that. Like, that's just simple conversation etiquette that goes a long way with the assistant. Just to these examples really just back up everything that you just walked through on the best column there.
Yeah, I love these. I'm reading through the comments right now, especially with what Steven said around it'll be like awkward to ask for the order number. I think sometimes you need to know like if the situation is like a happy situation or if the situation is like a situation you want to diffuse, and also like change the conversation accordingly. So one of the things I always say when it's like a super happy path conversation and everyone's having a great time in the chat and there's no escalations or anything, you can do things like even just like adding emojis or adding confetti, or doing like another cell saying like, hey, we have this promotional item. But if you've gone through kind of like a rough time with your customer or user and they've said stuff like, oh, I want to cancel my order, you're not gonna, you shouldn't respond with, okay, by the way, we're running 20% off, or like, by the way, like you can do this, this, and this. So yes, I definitely agree where it's super important to like be context aware.
Yeah, and then I want to chat through Nicole's comment. Before we do that, we just opened another poll that has these 4 best options in it. One thing that we were curious about too, as Ayesha was prepping this, is sometimes when we say, hey, we want our assistant to be best, you can't do all 4 things at once, right? Just from workflow, from sprints, from resourcing. So curious, like if you were leading a team like Ayesha, like Peter's thinking about that, what would you prioritize between all 4 of these best principles? I'm just curious. But I also wanted to hit on Nicole's point just about technical scope. Sometimes stakeholders do believe that the more code, the more data you can throw at them, the better the experience. But ultimately, sometimes, to your point, Ayesha, does it come down to better conversational etiquette and better keeping it simple for the user too?
Yeah, I absolutely love this question. So one of the constraints, but also amazing things about conversation design and just chatbots and AI is that there is a infinite like number of responses and types of responses you can receive. It's very different than just like traditional UIs where there's a button or like a couple of different like things that are clickable, and the feedback that you're getting is either a button click or you're typing something or whatever it may be on a traditional website. With conversation design, and in chatbots and AI, people can say anything at any point, and you really have to be prepared for it because that could happen. We've all seen it happen as conversation designers, and people in the industry. And so the kind of like the double-edged sword with how can I help you is that you can absolutely receive anything. I have worked on bots where we've said how can I help you, and someone responds with I'm going to sue you. We've like worked with bots where people type they think they're speaking to a human, and they like input in this like 3-paragraph thing that's like super hard for the bot to decipher and really understand, okay, what is it that you need. People can put in like 5 or 6 different intents. They can say, hey, I'm trying to track my order, but also I need to replace it and return a thing and replace it with something else. And then if your bot can't do like 5 things at once, it becomes an issue. What I do like about the open-ended prompts, such as how can I help you, is that you get really fast data on what it is that your users really want to use the bot for. Once you have that topic breakdown, my personal recommendation is kind of catering to the user and kind of predicting what they're going to ask, especially if you already know, like, okay, we've try to open-ended how can I help you experience for 2 weeks. We found that 70% of our users need help with this. It just makes sense to surface it. Also speaking to your product people and seeing like, okay, what is the point of the bot? Is the point of the bot to drive more sales? Because then you want to kind of be a little bit more closed-ended and try to push people through like a sales funnel. Is the point of the bot to I don't know, like help like customer experience, try to get them, the information that they need ASAP. And so I think the open-ended prompt can like get a lot of different types of info, but if you have a very specific use case that you want people to use the bot for, being a little bit more predictive and kind of like being a little bit more intentional in what you offer up is really important. And then the last thing that I'll add there is sometimes when bots, have the open-ended, how can I help you? In my mind, I start thinking like, how can you help me? Like, what can you really do? And we've all had experiences where we've just, seen terrible bots or bots that say that they can do absolutely everything. And then we try them and they really can't. And so I personally think it adds a lot more confidence. Your users have a lot more confidence when you tell them how you can help them instead of having them guess. So if you start with hey, like I'm the Sephora bot, here are a few things that I can do. I think that's a better experience because that like level sets with the user immediately rather than a user bringing in all of their historic context of all of these bots that they used, which might not have been that great. And then they're like, I don't know if you can actually help me. How do I get to a human as fast as possible?
That we can clip that and make a little book out of it, Ayesha. That was a fantastic. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's spot on. And I think Stephen, Nicole, Rachel, Laura, thank you for your comments. Like that's the type of discussion we want to have here. So thank you all for going back and forth. I think if we're ready, Peter, we'll throw it over to you for some Australia breakdown on
Sounds good.
Perfect. Great. We'll hop right into what you found on the Sephora side.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of what we were touching on before is kind of in the Australian bot. So the welcome message is super vague. It doesn't really tell you what the assistant can do or provide any info on its capabilities. So I like the rest of you were going like, what actually can you do? I don't really believe that you can do anything. So when I asked a question, if you want to go over to the next slide, is that the same slide? Here we go. So when I asked it a question, what I ended up finding was that it can't actually do anything. So it looks like it has it's kind of connected to a knowledge base, but that knowledge base doesn't actually provide you with any answers. It just provides you with a set of links of things which might be able to help. So it's really putting that whole cognitive load onto the user to kind of work out where the article is to answer their question. Because I kind of thought, Sephora, they're supposed to have good customer service, that sort of thing. They would have stuff which is product related, and they'd be able to answer questions about, moisturizers, as I've called them there. But yeah, I wasn't able to get anything of any sort of help really. So yeah, it was, fairly useless even. So yeah, that's about my analysis of the Sephora Australia bot, is that it doesn't actually do anything.
You hit on knowledge base here on the right, which I think is a relatively it's not like definitely a new term, but it's definitely a newer function for conversation design in CAI today, Peter. I think this is a really good thing to call out before we actually show it in Canvas or talk about it in Canvas. I think it's possible to have a knowledge base, and then it's possible to have a useless function of a knowledge base. Can you give a little bit more on like why this knowledge base is still lacking compared to how actually you can use a knowledge base?
Yeah, so a good knowledge base, you would basically upload all of your company's knowledge, and it would get converted into what's called a vector database. So a vector database basically takes all of your knowledge and breaks it up into chunks, which makes all of your knowledge searchable. So when your knowledge base is searching for information, it's not looking at everything at once, it's looking at little bits. And using a vector database, what you can do is once you find those chunks, you can throw it back to a large language model to put them into a response in a coherent way. Whereas this kind of knowledge base, which it looks like the kind of, I'm just going to pull it out, it looks like the old IBM one, which is on Watson, which it isn't really a knowledge base. It's more of a document finder kind of function, which I've never found bots which do this overly useful, because they don't really respond contextually. They just throw 3 links back at you, and you maybe the information that you want is in there, maybe it's not. Who knows?
Yeah, spot on. And we can maybe give a brief example of that throwing to an LLM, as you say. I think it's a great way to still like close off your assistant from making an open LLM call, but yet still use LLMs to make it better than just here are 3 relevant articles we've matched based on core Boolean terms. Effectively, this is Google search within your assistant, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Well, that I think that's the end of kind of our breaking session. While I throw it over to Peter for the building session on Canvas, where Ayesha and Peter will walk through a little bit of the redesign, I'm just curious in general of the chat how much designers and teams here have experimented with knowledge base as part of an assistant yet. If you want to just drop a thumbs up, thumbs down if you have or haven't, that'll give Peter some good context as he kind of shows a little bit of that today and what's possible. So just you want to use the chat, drop any knowledge base questions, or just let us know if you've used it before. Just curious on the Canvas front. But that said, while people transition over, Peter, I'll throw it to you on the Canvas.
Sounds good. So I am just
got it.
Well, can we see, or have I just shared the
I got the slide deck here.
Oh, whoops. Sorry, that's my bad.
No, you're fine.
I've shared the wrong screen. It's 5:30 in the morning.
Too many screens. That's the problem. How many monitors you got over there?
Oh, I was logged in just before. Let me just quickly do this.
No problem.
You can see my personal email while you're at it, if you ever want to hit me up.
Send him some coffee. Email Peter some coffee.
Yeah.
While that loads up, Rachel just call out something interesting too, which is like knowledge base in any sort of LLMs, company security, regulated industry is a barrier. We're seeing that a lot. And I think that's something, Peter, if you have anything that you've seen from your time at Woolies or Ayesha about how you're walking that line from prototyping production in the next half hour, I think everyone would benefit from that too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can say with LLMs, not on the knowledge-based side of things, but for prototyping and stuff, you can simulate a lot of what the LLM would do with JavaScript steps and stuff like that, which is what I'm going to use today. And you can test out how it would work, and you can kind of get all those designs ready for the point where you get the go-ahead on, the LLM that you're using, and whether you're, using it through Azure, or maybe you're using Google's LLMs, or you're using it in a way that is quote unquote secure. But yeah, in terms of knowledge bases and throwing that sort of stuff to an LLM, I mean, it really depends how you're doing it. If you're creating your own vector database, or you're using one of ours, they're both secure, but I think ultimately what you would probably want at the end part, if that kind of, you're in a highly regulated industry, is you probably want to be using an LLM via Azure or via Google or something like that, where you have your own secure instance, which, their APIs aren't being used for training or anything like that. So you don't have to worry about customer data being in there.
Cool. Peter, before we get started, just if your mic is tunneling just a little bit, if you can pull it a little closer, pull it away.
Sure.
That's perfect. Actually, a little bit better already.
Yep, that better?
Yeah, much better.
Easy. All right.
Beautiful.
Cool. So,
yeah, turn it over to you guys. The welcome message here.
Sounds good. All right. So what we're going to do is I have a JavaScript thing to simulate, basically looking up the customer and their details from the get-go. And, a lot of you said in the chat, if you can predict why the customer is getting in touch, that is the best thing. And I totally agree. And what we're going to actually do with most of this is actually use LLMs. So I'm going to get rid of that step there. And then I'm going to put a response AI step here. Now, quickly, what you can see here is the person's name, their orders. So they've got one order that was recently delivered, and they have one that's on its way. And then basically, I've just mapped this JSON here. I've mapped it to a variable called order details. So basically, what I want to show you is how writing prompts can be actually quite an iterative thing. So first up, what we will do is I will use, I'm not going to have any memory yet, but anyway, so first up, let's have a look. So we could do something like welcome the user if there are any details in order details, ask if they're getting in touch with us. Ask if they're getting in contact about them. Now, like, this prompt isn't great, but I kind of want to show you how you can you start testing and you go, oh, like, this prompt is working, this prompt is not working. Quickly as well, I can't actually see the screen. So if anyone has any questions, tell Sam or Ayesha to yell at me. And so
we'll interrupt you, don't worry.
Sounds good. So the first one, if we have a look at here, we've got the JavaScript, and that's not great. Try this again.
Too much JavaScript for that early in the morning.
Let's have a look.
Just to give a little context as you spin back up here, the way you're going about the JavaScript is how a designer would maybe approach early prototyping. Ideally, as you're working with the development team, you're actually making that that component call, right?
Yeah. All right. So something seems to be. All right. Give me a sec. What I'm going to do, I'm going to stop sharing for 2 seconds, and I'm going to try get this to work.
No problem.
Might actually just do it on a separate workspace because
That's totally fair.
This seems the demo gods do not like me today.
That's totally fine. I'll bring this up on stage. Ayesha, this was the poll that we had asked some of the people about here. Acknowledge what your user said was definitely number one. If you had to rank yours, would you put them in this order of priority? How would you go about it, Ayesha?
Ooh, I think almost. I think acknowledge what your user said would be first for me as well. I think only surfacing relevant info would be second. Because I think that, in my opinion, um, would be a little bit more important than predicting your user needs, just because you don't want to surface the wrong info like too much. And then be on a first name basis. I still love it, but I don't think it's like a necessary thing.
I also think it's not as exciting of an answer because using a name variable and using that basic data, that data is typically available and feels a little bit like table stakes, I think, today.
Yeah.
But even as you said, right, like having that little bit of personalization across your brand goes a long way. And
Yeah.
it's a simple design choice, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Interesting story, actually. I used to work at a company called Rocket Mortgage, and we actually could not be on a first name basis with anyone, because we were so highly regulated in the fintech mortgage industry. In the world where we were asking people for their name, there was no way at that point for us to actually validate that they gave us a name. We tried it, but names are so different in different regions. I remember I was like, well, if it has a special character, it's not a name. That's not true. People can have special characters in their name. We tried to do it based off length. If it's more than 2 characters and less than 20, also not true. And so we ended up never being able to greet people based on their name because we were just so worried about the risk of, we'd ask like, hey, what's your name? And they'd respond with like, well, screw you. I just want, XYZ. And then we respond with, well, hey, screw you, XYZ. This is what we can help you with. So that's always been something I really wanted to do. But yeah, just an interesting tidbit is it's almost impossible to validate that someone actually gave you their name.
That's a very good point. Yeah, because it makes it very risky unless you're actually using a human or some sort of LLM model to validate that it is a name without, obviously, having bias of any sort. That's a tough challenge. Laura says they've run into that as well.
All right.
Peter's back.
Yeah. All right. Let's
I'll stop sharing this. Go ahead. Diana, the session is recorded and we'll send it out right after this as well.
All right. Nothing like a live demo. Cool. So let's give it a test quickly. So we're going to welcome the user. It's going to feed all the JavaScript. And what we can kind of see here is, hello, thank you for reaching out. I see there are some order details about an order for John Doe. Are you getting in contact with us about that order? So obviously that welcome message isn't that great. However, it has seen that there is a person called John Doe there. And, they've seen the LLM has seen that there is an order. So step 2, what we could do is we can start doing a few different things. So first up, I'm actually going to pull this down to 40 and I'll pull that down to about 90. So what I'm doing here is actually when you increase or decrease the temperature, you're basically allowing the higher the temperature, the more random. So something which LLMs do is because they are a statistical engine which predicts the next word, if you start adding more randomness into it, you add more quote unquote creativity to what you're doing here. So the next prompt that I'll do is let's do something more like this. So we go, welcome the user to Sephora, because we want them to know that they are on our bot. Use the details in order details to greet them by their name. Ask if they're, and then and ask if they're contacting us about a recent order. And then what we'll also do here to try add a bit of information to the LLM about what it actually is and the task that it's performing. So we'll do something like, you are a chat assistant for the brand Sephora. Your name is, let's just say Liz. Your responses should use emojis. Never use the same emoji in a row. All right, so we'll give this one a quick test. We'll see how we go here. Hi there, John. Welcome to Sephora. Are you contacting us about a recent order? So we're getting there. It's not quite there. So what we can quickly do, we will try this one more time, and I'll also just put debug mode so you can kind of see what's happening. So that is being passed over to the LLM. And then finally, here is a prompt that I have created earlier, which, you know, we could be sitting here for a little bit while I try to work out what is going on. So here we go. We've got welcome the user to Sephora, use the details in order details to greet them by their name, ask the user if they're contacting us about any of their orders in order details, always refer to the orders using the order status and the order number. So we're giving it a little bit more info about the best way to respond to the customer. So we'll try that. Hi there, John Doe. Welcome to Sephora. Are you contacting us about one of your orders? We have your orders 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which was delivered on July 10th, and 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which is on its way. So we're starting to give like that extra information, and you know, we could maybe, as was suggested, we could have something like track order here as a button. And we could attach an intent there.
I love this too, because then this is mixing LLMs, button-driven conversation, and technically open intents, or at least letting the user drive. I think a lot of people think of it as like, I'm only doing prompt training forever, or I'm only doing button-driven conversations. It's like that's not conversation design, right? Like you can blend, and you should blend.
Exactly. And I think like I still think intents will be super useful in the future. They're a really great way of directing people to the right answer. So what we're going to do here, I'll just rename that, and I'll also start, you know, making things a bit pretty. So we got track order. What we can do here is we can go check the details in order details and tell the user when it's expected to arrive. Now, I'll just also steal the system prompt from here. And one thing I actually forgot to do in this last one was something that I wanted to show you that you can do. This is called few shot prompting. So what I want to do here is I have an example here of how I want the LLM to respond. So I've put some delimiters here so that the LLM knows that this is a new part of the prompt. And I put this here to show, hey, this is an example of how you should respond. And this starts to give the LLM a better idea of how to structure responses. So we'll just go from here. We'll ask it to track its order. But what I'm going to do, which is a little bit different, is I won't actually refer to the order. I will allow the LLM to work out which order I'm talking about. And give that one. Okay.
You do not want to stay logged in today, Peter.
No.
While you jump back in really quickly, Ayesha, Peter was working with that prompt system persona there, which a lot of people would, obviously might refer to as system persona or think of it as like brand voice, brand persona. Has your team, or have you ever thought about like translating maybe bot persona into LLM prompting, or how is a design manager thinking about system personas at different parts of the conversation?
Yeah, that is such a great question. I can respond to that for hours and hours because that's something that we're currently working through, and I don't think I have all the answers. But we definitely think it's important. It's even more important now that we have, LLMs to actually have like a brand persona and actually incorporate that in as much as we possibly can. I think one of the I'm trying to think about how to answer that. There's just so many ways to go. So I think in the past, the way that we used to do it was very statically, where we'd, work with UX research, work with a bunch of internal stakeholders, and define this brand persona, and then work really like diligently to make sure that we're following, our brand guidelines, our voice and tone guidelines, and all of that stuff. And now I think it's even more important because a lot of the content, a lot of the experiences that we're not creating as intimately as we would have been, if we're drafting them ourselves. And so I think it's even more important to make sure that your persona is airtight for that consistency. And just make sure that it's aligned the content that you're writing yourself, and the content that you may not be writing yourself still sounds like it's being created by the same voice.
Yeah, that's spot on, and maybe that's another 4 workshops of content, right, that I just unpacked there. But yeah, regardless, documenting that system persona is going to be incredibly important for teams. But yeah, Peter, back to you on the testing front here.
No problem. So we'll do this and go. Hi there, welcome to Sephora. I'm Liz. I see that you're John Doe and you've made some recent orders with us. Order number 123456789 has been delivered, and order 987654321 is on its way. Is there anything you need help with regarding those orders? When is it coming? So hopefully I have an utterance that this actually works with, but when is it coming? So what I want to do is basically be like, we both implicitly know that when is it coming? I'm not referring to the one which has already been delivered. So the idea is, can we do that? And will the LLM take into context the way that I've said this thing and then spit back the right information? And whoops, I see. My bad there. I need to add, go to intent. Okay, we'll try this again. So we've got the welcome message. So when is it coming? All right. When should it arrive? Alrighty. Sorry, I haven't been prepared enough in my. When should
it is real-time design, and this is what designers will do, right? To keep tweaking prompts and tweaking flows. This is part of it. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we go. What I might do as well, just to make sure that it works on the next time, is just grab a utterance from Track My Order, which is vague enough, but we'll throw it back there. So we have that. I'll grab that verbatim so it definitely matches. So when will it arrive? So, hi there. According to the details you provided, it looks like John Doe's order number was delivered on the 10th, and the order is on its way and expected to arrive by July 22. So what we could also probably do here to make this slightly better is we've got a bit too much. It's doing a bit too much of its own thing there, and I want it to be so. Example. Having a look. Your order should arrive on date. Is there anything else I can help with? So we can add that. And what we're also going to do while we're here is I'm going to create another one. I'll do this. And we'll also do what's in my order. Whoops, we want to what's in the order. And I'm going to quickly create this one. We'll chuck that there. Order, and we'll do a prompt, which is something along the lines of, I think the other reason why this didn't work that great is I wasn't capturing what happened before. So then we'll go prompt, and we'll go prompt to memory, and I'll just go check the user's details in order details. The reason I'm putting this into quotation marks is it just use delimiters to kind of make it really clear to an LLM of like, this is new information, this is and this is continuing information, and tell them what's in the order. And we'll do a few shot prompt here again. So example, we'll even do this, user what's in the order. And we could say something like, okay, order, actually we'll do it like order hash order number has item 1, item 2, and item 3 for a total cost of is there anything else? And I'll just grab system prompt for both of these. Oops, grab that one. Also turn the temperature down. Apparently, you're all having a heat wave anyway. And we'll go here. We'll give it a bit of a train, and hopefully
Peter, while that trains, Kayla asked if there's a best number of examples to provide in the prompt.
Oh my God.
One more login.
Is there a best number of examples? I think it really depends on what you're trying to do. Sometimes one example might be enough. Sometimes you'll need lots and lots of examples. It just really depends on the use case. I'm sorry, I can't be more exact on it. It's like taming a wild horse. It's just, it's really not that easy, but it's not always that scientific of like, oh, if I do this, this will be the best thing.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's like constant tweaking too, right? Like trial and error, and also I would focus less on like the number of examples and just try to focus on like the variety. So you try going in one direction and then you kind of switched up a little bit and go in a different direction, getting a little bit closer till you're there.
100%.
And then to your earlier point, Ayesha, taking that final example and documenting that prompt and how many examples. Now you have documentation not only for design and best practices on Canvas, but also prompting. And then if every team has like, hey, every time this is our bot example for a user flow or order flow, then you can use that and everyone gets a little bit better. So that's one thing that's popped to my mind in watching you guys talk today. But Peter, back to you.
100% on all of that. All right, so we've got the welcome message. It's done pretty well. Hi, John Doe. Welcome to Sephora. I see that you've made a couple of recent orders with us. Order 123456789 has been delivered, and order 987654321 is on its way. Is there anything else? Is there anything you need help with regarding these orders? When will it arrive? So let me check that for you. According to our records, order 987654321 is expected to arrive on or before July 22nd, as the expected delivery date is July 22nd. I mean, that was a little bit verbose at the end, but please let me know if you have any more questions. And then I could go something like, I have had a few orders arrive lately. What's in this one?
You're doing a lot of shopping, Peter.
Yeah.
Too many in row.
So let me check those details. Actually, I think that hit track my order again, but that's actually fine, because it's an LLM. Sometimes you can actually hit the wrong intent, and it will take the customer utterance anyway and answer the question. So let me check the order details. According to your history, contains 3 lipsticks and is expected to arrive on or before July 22nd. Then we could go, what is in the first order?
There you go.
Sure, let me pull up your order details. Based on your history, order number 123456789 contains 2 foundations and 1 mascara for a total cost of $200. That is some expensive foundation and mascara. Your order has already been delivered on July 10. Please let me know if you have any more questions. So as you can see, like using prompts, you can start to create quite a dynamic chatbot. As you saw, like I actually hit the wrong intent in the middle of that, but it didn't matter. It still answered correctly. So if you'd done that in your normal kind of static way, you would hit that intent and it would just give those order details and tell you when the order is expected to arrive. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, this is fantastic, Peter. And I think it's such a departure from just spamming logic, if then to like route intents and classify sentiment and intents. This is just a much more seamless way that, to me, the last half hour you spent tweaking the user journey, what's possible, how are we sounding, versus like, how do I get someone down this tree to the right, what they're actually needing here. And I think that's a pretty powerful next step for design.
Yep.
Cool.
I feel sorry for everyone spending such high amounts on foundation and mascara.
Yeah, that's actually the main takeaway from this, right? If Sephora's watching, that's the only thing. No,
Yeah.
They said the prices are pretty accurate, so okay, good. Your data set worked.
Yeah, I mean, I just asked ChatGPT, so obviously to create the data set. So there you go.
It must not be a beauty insider sale. That's exactly it. Yeah, Pete did not come for the sale. I know we're at time here. Pete, anything else before we close up Canvas and wrap up workshop for today?
No, nothing really on my side. Like, look, as you can see, the prompts aren't perfect. They definitely, you would probably want to spend potentially you could even spend a day on one prompt to try and get it so that it is super repeatable and it just works exactly how you want it every time. This was 20 minutes plus 20 minutes yesterday having a tweak of some prompts to try work out how we could get from A to B. But yeah, it's a super iterative process, and yeah, I hope you all enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, thank you both for spending time looking at the bot, actually, sharing your insights, and then going as far as rebuilding. Someone joked, so who's going to go rebuild the Sephora bot now with all this insight? Yeah, we'll see if they ever stumble upon this. But more than anything, Ayesha, Peter, thank you for spending time with us today. If there's any Q&A that you guys need to drop, you can respond to the email that we'll send out after this. Pete, is it too much to promise that we'll be able to give them the JSON and some of the prompts, or at least the project file, if people want to use this? Yeah,
for sure. I'm happy to. Do you want me to download it now, or like?
I'll grab it from you after this.
It's just in the Breaking Bots workspace.
Yeah,
So
we'll just throw that
go
out.
nuts.
Diana did ask a really good question, and maybe you could just share it really quickly. Maybe the embeddable widget or the shareable prototype. For anyone who has to drop, go ahead. Would love if Pete could just show that really quickly before we wrap, just if someone wants to see how they take their work to that next step.
Yeah. So you can share a prototype, which is
just one more log out for fun.
oh my God. I swear this literally happens most times I do a demo, and like it's like, yeah, demo gods don't like me.
Making you work for the demos, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So breaking parts. Where are we going? I have so many like clients sharing their workspaces with me, so I can look at things that it then becomes just impossible to find anything. All right. So we've got share. So you can share a prototype link, and that would just basically give a prototype version that you could share with stakeholders and anyone else that you wanted to.
Can you just drop that in the chat, Pete? Oh, there you go. That's perfect. Yeah.
There we go. And so we could go and do this, and you can test the bot. So what is in the first one, and then in theory it will answer.
Yeah.
So then we can go back to here, and you can do publish. So version 1, and then so that publishes it, and then you can grab from the settings. Is that right? Or the integrations?
Integration.
Yeah. So you can grab this little part here, and then you can actually you just put that on your website, and it would go.
Yeah, and I know we're just over time here, so Diana, I'll follow up with any documentation and a few videos on that if you're looking to go embed or publish to a specific site. But that said, we're 4 minutes over. This was an awesome hour with both of you. Thank you so much for your time. Excited to do more of these. We'll definitely have you back, Ayesha and Peter, on Breaking Bots. And for everyone who joined and stayed around and commented, thank you for your design input. And we'll see you next month for another Breaking Bots. Great. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome. Take care, everyone.